Welcome, everybody. My name is Mike Cirillo. You probably have seen me on the internet as Ghost Walking. I'm formerly of the 5th Trooper and the Jetta Journal. And tonight I'm here to present our brand new sports-style talk show, Turn Zero, where we'll take a look at some various hot takes, actual Turn Zero in preparation for Legion games and how to get better. And in future coming weeks, we're going to dissect some lists that listeners send in to us. I'm joined by our permanent host here tonight, Keegan Evans, otherwise known as Matrokin Online. He and his partner run 6UP Supply, who makes some of the best accessories in tabletop gaming, especially for Star Wars Legion. I'm also joined by Nick Bodner of the Liberty Squadron, who is a X-Wing and Legion group based out of Philadelphia and South Jersey. They do a lot in the local area for tournaments and such. And finally, the brains behind the operation, Josh Tavara. He goes by Peregrine on the Discord. He's one of the admins, and he recently started the Turn Zero channel that is actually present on Discord. It's been a pretty big hit, and we thought we'd actually take this live, do some recordings, talk about some lists, and then bring it out to the general public. So what we're going to do tonight is go over some quick new things that debuted with the RRG, give our little opinions on them, and then go over a couple of lists that we've submitted. Okay, so we're going to start with our hot take section here, where each of our panelists is going to have one topic, and they're going to give their take on it. So, Nick, let's start with you. We learned in the new RRG update today that Exemplar doesn't require line of sight. What do you think about it?
I don't like it. Being able to hide Padme, for instance, behind a building who's fragile as it is, and her being able to pass standby tokens to Rex, any Phase 2, any ARC Trooper, even a Saber Tank or Obi-Wan, it feels like an oversight, but it's such a small example because there's only 1.5 characters. Anakin's not out yet, so 2 characters who benefit from it, so we'll see.
Yeah, they're both clones, so that feels kind of shitty, not gonna lie. Speaking of clones, Keegan, hostage exchange. You can now scouting party your own hostage unit with Rex. Is that an auto win?
Well, the one time I played against clones in pre-Invader League rules with scouting party, Nema just crushed me, but Nema crushes me almost every time I play him. So, you know what? I think it's just going to be aggressive play and don't bring hostage exchange if you're not Rex.
All right. And Josh, what's better than Impervious? Pierce. Yeah. What's better than both of them? Being able to pick whether or not you have Pierce after the dice have shown.
I'm hoping this is a mistake. This can't be true. We have some of the best units in the game about to release that have a little keyword called lethal, and they decided to make it better. You can see your opponent's dice before you decide to spend that aim to either pierce or save it to share to another clone later on. Or even worse, now lethal overrides impervious because you don't have to spend that aim to gain pierce until after they roll. I don't like it. I hope it's a mistake, and I hope it's fixed pretty quickly.
Yeah, me too. All 3 of these are boost to clones, and none of us are primarily clones players, so that needs to change quickly. But let's get into the meat of our show tonight. So our show is called Turn Zero, and just as a little deeper dive, what we're going to do is present 2 lists that we've come up with. We're going to present a map, we're going to give a quick overview of the map, and then we're actually going to flip over some battle cards. The way that it'll work is each panelist is going to have about 20 seconds to give their opinion on whether or not they should pass or kill a card as the player. And then once everybody has given their input, I'm actually going to make the final decision as the moderator because I like to abuse my power, and now I have the chance to. So what we're going to do tonight is run 2 different lists. I have actually created the red player list tonight, which is a double ISF Iden Versio list. You'll see it on your screen on the right-hand side, and that comes to 799 points. Comes with Iden with offensive push, recon intel, and her repeater. General Veers with strict. The ID-10 counterpart for Iden is attached, but does not have any comms upgrades. There's 3 shores with T-21s, 2 mortars, a sniper, and 2 generic ISF troopers with their T-21 offensive push and recon intel. If you can't tell, I like the T-21. There's 5 of them here. Keegan is the blue player. He also brought 799. We rolled a red die ahead of time and determined that he won, so he got the chance for blue. He has Jyn Erso with offensive push, recon intel, and her pistol config, quite similar to Iden. He also has Cassian with hunter, offensive push, cables, and his configurations sniper pistol. Cassian does have a loadout option of Overwatch, situational awareness, and recon intel. K2 is here with his uplink and Jyn's pistol. There's 3 rebel troopers with the DLT, standard pathfinders with Biston, offensive push, uplink, recon intel, and their config. Rebel Commando Strike Team, and a Mando Resistance with Ursa, Offensive Push, and Jetpack Rockets. Keegan's battle deck also contains Long March, Major Offensive, Disarray, and Rollout. For his objectives, he's gone pretty old school with Sabotage, Recover the Supplies, Intercept, and Key Positions. And for the condition cards, we have Limited Visibility, Clear Conditions, Fortified Positions, and Supply Drop. I think Keegan subscribes to the school that old school objectives are better for Rebels. I think so as well. The map that we have tonight is actually Jeddah City Square. It was created by Nerfly, and we used it in, I believe, Invader League Season 2 and Yavin Base Season 2. That's a fantastic table. It's a pretty good mix of heavy line of sight blockers with the building and some difficult terrain with the craters. There's not a lot of light cover on the map. Really, the only way that you're going to get that is if you're sitting on the hill that's directly in the middle, or if you're inside one of the difficult terrain like craters. Otherwise, everything is heavy cover, including the crates that you see in the top right-hand corner. So, jumping into it, the first thing that we're going to debate is what side of the table you want. And we're just going to go around the horn here and start with Keegan. If you are the blue player, which side of the table would you like to go as?
100% I want the side that puts the X-Wing on my left and the large buildings on the opposite end. I love this list is built around doing tricks, especially with Recover. Recover's in the deck, and if I've got a chance to have Recover and just get my units behind that line of sight blocking of the buildings, that's what I want to do.
Nick?
I'm going to go the other way, and I like the top of the table with the X-Wing on my right. The building near the center of the table is connected to another building that's kind of almost, I guess, if you were playing battle lines, it would be in your deployment. There's a walkway on top of there. There's a lot of doorways on the terrain up top here. There's an entrance up here. This building on the left with the red walkway on top there's an entrance there. And I would just, if I were playing that list, I'd probably want the top. But yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
I think I'm going to have to agree with Keegan here. I want the bottom, and mostly that's because of deployments. Rollout and Major Offensive just don't feel good to deploy behind, trapped on the X-Wing side, where there's not a lot of room to maneuver. And you don't have a lot of space to deploy. I think I want the bottom, mostly because there aren't a lot of buildings in the deployment area that are restricting my deployment. And that will also help knowing that I have a lot of infiltrating units that I can spread them out across the map and help block any of the ISF's units from deploying near me.
All right, so I actually tend to agree playing as the Rebel with Keegan and Josh here. It's not great to throw a whole bunch of white save units out there on the far side of the buildings because the Imperials do have the ability to scoot around the corner and take a shot at you in the open. So we are going to say that blue player has taken the top with the X-Wing to the right. In the picture on your screen, it is the side with the blue dice tray.
All right, that's what Nick said, not us.
Oh. Okay, well, I'm going with Nick then. I guess I'm looking at the mirror. Nick, you're right. So let's flip over to the battle cards then. So what you'll see up on your screen here is our flip over that we got from the battle deck. We have Intercept the Transmissions, Sabotage the Moisture Evaporators, and Recover the Supplies in the third slot. There's like 7 infiltrate units out here, so this could be cool. We have the Long March, Rollout, and Major Offensive. I wonder if this was rigged. And finally, we have Clear Conditions, Limited Visibility, and Fortified Positions. So, blue player is the Rebels. Keegan, are you going to pass anything, or do you think you're going to cut one?
I've got Infiltrate and Mandalorian backup. I want Recover, so I'm going Kill and Intercept right away.
Nick?
I played some Infiltrate with Rebels, and I would lean toward Recover. The K2 turn 1 box grab is strong. So, yeah, I would probably cut Intercept and Transmissions too.
And Josh?
I have to agree. I'm cutting Intercept, but not for the same reasons. I think Recover is dangerous here. You do have Mandalorians that do not have recon intel. You have 3 units that can infiltrate, but the Empire has 3 units that infiltrate and are a little bit stronger, at least far as throwing dice. So I think Recover here might be a trap. I would rather be playing Moisture Evaporators here. The only reason I'm not cutting deployments is I really don't want Major Offensive.
Now, I agree with a lot of those points there. I personally cut intercept because I think that's a death trap for the rebels here. The Imperials are going to force you to walk out into the center, and they do have more ranged firepower. So we are going to cut intercept. Now the red player has a chance. And what do we think they're going to do? Keegan?
Keep going to me first.
Going around the horn. We'll mix it up for round 2.
All right. So as the Empire, yeah, I've got the infiltrators, but I do know that I'm red player, which means if blue player's going for recover, it's probably going to do a first deployment drop onto the box. That's going to do 2 things. 1, it's going to claim that box with an infiltrator. 2, it's going to start blocking off infiltrate areas. So I think you know what, I'm going to go kind of the counter view of what you said, and I am going to, as the Imperial, I am going to go after major offensive to get as close as possible to the opposing force. So I'd cut long march here.
What do you think, Nick?
So if I'm the Imperial player, I really want limited visibility. I don't know what the command hand is, but I know that an Iden Versio tactical strike with 2 T-21 ISFs might be real strong on turn 1, and they can't, they deploy right at range 3. They have recon intel, and then they move twice with 2 aims, and then they get to shoot rebels in the face at range 2. That could hurt a lot. So I'm probably cutting clear conditions for limited visibility here. And then maybe they have to cut limited visibility to avoid it, but they might not want to do that. So, yeah, I'm going for limited visibility here.
Josh, take us home.
Yes, I think I may have misspoken earlier. I don't think the rebels want major offensive here. I think the Empire does want major offensive, especially knowing that intercept is cut. I have to assume having infiltrate units that he's going for recover the supply. Long march isn't what I want here. I definitely want to go to major offensive. It allows me to infiltrate in places that can angle and take out K2 if he does that box grab. And it also allows me to approach his boxes that he's naturally going to drop in the open because of how packed that deployment is, that he'll have to put on the open near the far side of the board. So,
all right. So I tend to agree with cutting long march. I think that lim vis is a decent play, and that's something that could potentially come up for our second ban. But rollout kind of functions as an inverse major offensive for this Imperial list, with half of its power units having infiltrate. And you want to make sure that you are close enough to K2 that you can snipe him off the box if he does claim it right away, because his incognito will go away if he claims the box. So as red player, we're going to cut we're going to cut long march. So going into the second round, we are playing sabotage, rollout, and clear conditions at the moment. We're going to flip the order here, and Josh, as the second action for the blue player, what do you think they want to do?
So I'm going to go different from everyone else here. I actually think we want moisture evaporators, and the main reason is, again, these Imperials, there are 3 units that can infiltrate. Sure, K2 can grab that box and run away, but then I've invested 100 points into a unit that's not going to be stopping what is essentially 6 shore troopers. I'm counting Iden as equivalent to a shore trooper in terms of strength. And I think if you're cutting down to 700 points because K2 can't do anything, it's going to be not enough firepower to stop. And if you plan on running those Mandos to grab boxes as well, you're now down to about 575 points to stop 6 shore troopers. I don't see it happening. I think it's best to play defensive and go for a sab here. Let's cut clear conditions and go for limited viz.
Nick.
Ooh, I don't disagree with what Josh just said, but I also don't want to play to a tie. And that's what happens on Recover the Supplies. There's no bounty. There's no secret mission here. So if you're playing Sabotage the Moisture Evaporators, you're playing to a tie, and then you're assuming as blue player you can out attrition that Imperial Army, and I don't think you can. So I'm cutting down to Recover the Supplies.
And Keegan.
Yeah, I think at this point, my first instinct to cut down to recover is what I'd stick with. I will say, supporting Josh's point, I have a lot of fun on with infiltrate units going after my opponent's safe evaporators and really throwing them off the game by making it not as obvious that we're going to go down to a tie. That being said, faced with this many infiltrators on the other side of the table and just the dynamic nature with that deployment is gonna have, I want to stick with what's predictable because I'm not sure that whatever tricks I could do to screw with a back vap, especially on either rollout or major offensive, are going to pay off. So straight to recover.
All right. I am actually going to cut to recover here. I think that the issue with sabotage is that you have tack strike on the other side, and it's going to be really easy to move, shoot, wipe a sniper team, wipe a DLT, and now all of a sudden you have to make the push. And when you're walking into the short trooper line, that's going to drop coordinated fire round 2. I don't know if that's a recipe that you want, because the buildings being on your side are now going to work against you, where the Imperials are having you walk into the open knowing that they can just aim, shoot at you the entire time. So we are going to cut to recover with the blue player. So going into the final ban, we are playing recover, rollout, and clear conditions right now. Josh, what does the red player want to do, or does he potentially even want to pass here?
I think given that it's recover the supplies, I think it's easy for the rebels to box you out of deploying in good positions to stop K2 from grabbing, because that entire board edge is now covered with the deployment zone. I think you cut rollout, go major offensive. It's going to give the Empire the best chance to infiltrate in a spot where they can maybe snipe off K2 round 1 with attack strike and get them to drop a box, or grab some of the rebel boxes.
What do you think, Nick?
I still think I'm cutting clear conditions here for limited visibility. I think that puts you in a real strong position to be able to tactical strike on round 1 and then coordinated fire round 2. Being able to just mow down Cassian or K2 round 1 with two ISFs and Iden is real strong, and it's real. I'm an aggressive player, so that's what I would do if I were a red player in this position here. So cutting clear conditions.
What do you got, Keegan?
I think I'm actually still thinking it's major offensive for the proximity. I like what Nick's talking about, cutting to limited. I think there's not that much of a long range threat from the rebel side that the Imperials need to cover, especially with the number of ISF they've got coming in. That tack strike is something that I'm brutally afraid of right now, with the folks I've got in there. So I think getting them as close as possible from whatever angle with major is the way to go.
I tend to agree. I really do like the limited visibility play, but when you don't have to worry about a lot of long-range Pierce coming in, I don't really think it's necessary. Putting yourself at that range 3 bubble puts you at a danger of walking into Cassian's range with his pistol. I think that's something that your Shores and ISF do want to avoid, because while you will be surging to defense with a reliable 1 on the ISF, they still don't stop Pierce. They do not have impervious. So we are going to cut to major offensive.
I am curious if one of the things that we haven't seen played much, if Nick's worried about, is those rockets on the Mandalorians coming in to hit.
That worries me a little bit with cutting away from sabotage, because that's a pretty, like we used to see with Boba Fett, that's a pretty brutal alpha strike as well. And it's almost guaranteed to kill an activation, especially like a sniper team white save. So I thought that might be a disadvantage, because now you are forced to walk even further into the rebels. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I like the jetpack rockets as the alpha strike, but I like them a lot better with Tristan. You have to have an aim for Ursa's dice. However, the jetpack still has impact 1. Is it 1 red die?
Yes.
Yeah, it's and blast. It's still strong. I don't know. Mandalorian resistance, they're real toolsy. They have a lot they can do. I don't think they do anything really well. I think the jetpack rockets help them with their range. So their range issue being range 2. So.
Nick, our hot takes are about 10 minutes ago. I think they do quite a few things really well. No, but that makes sense. So we're going to mix up the order a little bit for our final little section here, where based on let's kind of go over what we think is going to happen on turns 1 and 2 here. And now that we know that we're playing major offensive, recover the supplies, and clear conditions, which is about as basic as we can get, Nick, how do you think the first couple of turns play out?
I mean, we're playing recover the supplies. I guess K2 grabs the box round 1, and tries to run. I guess depending on where the Imperial infiltrate units deploy, it depends on, I guess, if you're waiting till the end of the round to grab it and run, or if you're running early in the round and hoping that you can move your army up to support.
Yeah, I think you probably run with K2 towards the end of the round, because an early grab and run without limited visibility means that the Imperials are going to rain the entire attack strike down on you. So I like your thoughts there. Keegan, what do you think kind of plays out over the first turn or two?
I know the popular thinking is that we'd use K2 for the box grab, but I actually would position my Pathfinders to do the box grab. They've got HQ uplink as well, and that frees up K2's calculate odds to throw to the Mandalorian resistance, which will get that aim that we were talking about early on, combined with an offensive push. So I can see setting up for that, dropping Jin's 1 pip, or maybe Cassian's 1 pip, to get best chance of priority. Pop the HQ on the Pathfinders, pop the HQ on K2, and go with the Pathfinders first, and just start running like hell.
Yeah, I kind of like that as well, because you can also, with Ursa, you do have Dauntless. So even if the Paths take some suppression with Duck and Cover, you've got Jin's Courage 3 bubble around there that they're going to get their 2 moves and get away. That's a good thought, actually. If they can survive that first turn, they're in a great spot. What do you think, Josh?
I have to go with Nick on this. I think K2 on the box is the way to go. It's going to delay any shots at him until he grabs the first box. I think having only 9 activations compared to the Imperial's 10 does put him at a little bit of disadvantage, especially if you're playing a 1 pip, because if you do play that tack strike, the Empire does, that's 2 units that can still take a shot at him, 2 ISF. It's a lot of dice with offensive push, 3 aims, 8 dice. I don't know about K2 this round, though I do agree with grabbing K2, mostly because he can still remain in support. Even if that takes the gun out of his game, he could still throw aims and dodges on anyone around him.
Okay, that makes sense. So a couple of questions before I give my input. Do you think there's some validity to playing, knowing that most likely tack strike or coordinated fire is coming turn 1? Do you think there's a chance that you drop Cassian's 3 pip to give the extra danger sense to the box grabber and just hope for the roll off, and knowing that you can probably survive 1 attack? What do you think, Keegan? You're our experienced player there.
If I was going to go that route, instead of Cassian's 3 pip, which you'd lose the advantage of a free recover by throwing it out in the first turn, use Jin's 3 pip for complete the mission. This gives you the benefit of throwing suppression out to everyone that you give an order to, and that works for any HQ uplinks as well. So Jin could be throwing suppression out to herself, Cassian, and anyone else with a direct order, and the pass with the HQ can still get their suppression as well.
All right, and if you're running complete the mission on turn 1, are you dropping K2 or the Pathfinders on the box then?
I'm still sticking with my Pathfinder plan.
Okay.
They're probably going to get nuked, but they're moving the ball back and keeping the attention away. They plus with some suppression for danger sense. I never count danger sense as part of their actual armor. It's a fun win if it works. But I think they move the box at least 6 inches back where we need it.
Yeah, I think that might be the smarter play, knowing that unit is going to die regardless to the Empire's return volley. So that way you do preserve K2 and his Pierce for the red saves. What I think probably plays out is, though unfortunately most players are probably going to drop K2 on the box, run away with, I would say he probably drops a 3 pip for Jin, runs away last, but the Imperials can get a chance to nuke something else. One little thing we didn't talk about is the 3 Rebel DLTs, and I think they're a little bit of an X factor here because they're kind of punchy. They're a lot of black dice, so they hit just under the average of a shore trooper without a name, so it's pretty good. If they can get into a nice little flanking position away from the ISF and kind of pick away at the shores and the mortars, I think that can be a nice activation killer early on, and it forces the opponent to keep a shore trooper back, and you can kind of throw the Mandos in to clean up. Ultimately, I do think in this scenario, the Empire probably comes out on top, just under the weight of dice on the first 2 turns. But I think that'll be an interesting see. I know we're going to try and coordinate with Codec and Legion University to get that happening. So that would be really cool. Also, considering that we've gone through our little spiel here, on Monday, the day that this drops, we're actually going to open up this to everybody on the Legion Discord on TurnZero. We're going to put up the map, put up the pictures, go over the lists, and see what everybody else thinks. So I really appreciate everybody joining us tonight for TurnZero. This will be our inaugural episode. We're going to try and do this, every couple of weeks, keep things light, keep things fun, that 20, 25-minute range. For next week, if anybody listening wants to send in a list to either have us use, have us go over, see what we like about it, what we think we could improve, please feel free to send that over to the LegionTurnZero@gmail.com. We'll have a link to that in the description here. Just send it in with your Discord handle, your name, whatever you would like, and we'll pick one that looks fun and go over it. So for everybody that watched, thank you very much. Once again, my name is Mike Cirillo, here with Keegan Evans, Nick Bodner, and Josh Devara. And thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.